Alright, so welcome back everybody. So for this video, I'm going to be sort of doing a review, but mostly doing a versus video. A video of Forest Shuffle versus Forest Shuffle Dartmoor. Which game is better? Which game has more species? That sort of stuff. And the pros and cons of both games. That's what we're going to be talking about, or I'm going to be talking about in this video. I also did some research and I wrote down, and I'll show you, in fact, I wrote down some stuff on paper, all of the different species of animals and plants that are in this game. So I've got them all written here so I don't have to spend 10 minutes looking for the card that I want to talk about, because it's all written down here. Now, I'm not going to be talking too much about trees. I'm not going to be talking too much about moors or shrubs or mushrooms. It's mostly just going to be the plants and the animals themselves, okay? Now, Forest Shuffle is a great game. I really like Forest Shuffle for sure, but it has a huge con. The con is the deer and wolves in this game, because they are so overpowered. If you ever play online and you want to play the birds, or you want to play the paw animals like the foxes and the hares, or you want to focus on butterflies, or if you want to focus on bats, you want to do those kinds of animals in the game that this game has, but you're playing against a player who is playing deer and playing wolves, then your chances of beating him, honestly, is a 10% chance of winning against a player that just wants to focus on winning. And online, 99% of the players who play Forest Shuffle online, that's all they care about. They just want to win at all costs, even though they are skipping more than half of the species in this game, that they're just discarding to play their deer and wolves, because you know, they might play some butterflies, obviously they need to play some trees, but that's about everything they're playing. So it's a problem, and it's a huge one, especially online. Now, if you're playing Forest Shuffle with your friends, then it probably isn't so bad. I'm sure for the most part, if you're playing with a group of friends, no one is going to like spam wolves and deer. They might play a wolf, they might play some deers, you know, maybe one of each species or something. But they're not gonna just like spam and just every time they see a wolf and deer, just play it, you know, like they do online. Now, so they tried to fix this problem. You know, they obviously realized their mistake, that the deer and wolf was way too overpowered, and so they made 3 expansions. Okay, 3 expansions. So they made the Alpine expansion. So glad I kept the boxes. They also made the 2nd expansion, the Woodland Edge expansion. Now, before we get into the 3rd one, these 2 expansions together still don't quite give you a huge chance over the wolf and deer strategy. It increases your chances to maybe 30% chance that you'll beat deer and wolf, someone who's just, you know, playing tons of deer and wolves. The reason why that is still slightly a chance is the amount of cards that these add means that a certain amount of cards are going to not be in the game, especially in a 2-player game. So if you're lucky, the cards that get randomly discarded will be mostly deer and wolves. And if that was the case, that does increase your chances of winning against a player who just wants to win at all costs. So the 2 expansions were not quite enough to even really give you a fighting chance. But then they made a 3rd one, which is more of a promo box, but they're calling it an expansion. So we'll call it an expansion. The Explorer expansion, okay? Now, if you have all 3 of these expansions together with the base game, your chances of beating an opponent who just wants to go deer and wolves probably increases to like 50% chance, maybe. And so that is a problem, though, because this expansion is not available online as of yet, and it's unclear if it will be or not. So if you're playing online, which is the problem with the deer and wolf strategy, you're not really going to get the help you need that this would provide, because it adds more cards and stuff, and more, and gives out more points for the other strategies. You know, there's one hooved animal in this box, and the rest are for the other strategies to help score points for them. And so that does increase that possibility if you have all three. Now, of course, this also introduces solo mode, so you can play solo, which is nice for me because now I can play the physical copy by myself without having to control two players. And that's what I'm starting to do more of now, because this is still not available online anyway. So yeah, that's a con for sure, that it's not available online. But if you're playing with your friends and you have all three expansions, it will give a whole bunch of new species to the game that will make it more interesting to try and play some of the other strategies and sort of just, you know, play a deer here and there type of thing. So because the expansions didn't quite completely erase or change or make the wolf and deer strategy weaker, because of that, they couldn't do it. Even with 3 expansions, they couldn't really give you a fair chance. 50% chance versus something that is almost always a 50% chance with any other strategy, when the deer and wolf strategy, now with 3 expansions, maybe has a 75% chance, an 80% chance of winning. It's still not fair when all the other strategies are like 50. It's not fair. So, because they couldn't fix it, they made a completely standalone version, the Dartmoor version. And so they removed 2 of the 3 species of deer from the game. And now there's only 3 hooved animals in this game in total. So definitely less than the base game, by a little bit at least. And then now the hoof strategy is the weakest strategy in the game. True, you probably will not focus on just one strategy when you play a forest shuffle, regardless of which one you're going, unless you're doing deer and wolf. If you're playing either of these games, you most likely are going to be working on at least 2 strategies, as in they are both, you know, you're going to be working on one really good and one almost good, is the general idea, and maybe a couple of side animals from the other strategies or plants from the other strategies. But for the most part, you're focusing on 1.5 of the strategies if you're playing either game, unless, like I said, you're just doing deer and wolves. But like I said, it weakens the hoof strategy or the deer strategy completely, to the point where it's now the weakest link. And all the other strategies, so there's basically 7 strategies in Forest Shuffle Dartmoor, and technically 7 main strategies in the main game, okay? And, you know, 6 of the 7 strategies are on equal footing. You all have a fair chance of winning now with the 6 of the strategies. So if you're working on 2, another player's working on 2, another player's working on 2. If you're playing a 3-player game and you're all working on 2 different strategies, you all have a chance of winning, unlike in Forest Shuffle OG, unfortunately. Because if one person is going deer and route and everybody else is doing the other strategies, deer and route is going to win. Deer and wolf is going to win every time. So that's a problem if you're playing online, especially. And you're playing against a friend who just wants to win. That could be potentially a possibility too, right? So I like that. That this fixes that whole mess. Now, that said, is there some things about this versus this that makes one better than the other, for instance? Well, let's put it this way. I've been noticing some players playing for a shuffle seem to think there's less species in Dartmoor. Maybe that's because For a Shuffle has 3 expansions, and those 3 expansions add a whole lot more animals and plants to the game, and they do. And this one has no expansions as of yet. Who knows? But if you compare just these 2 games and ignore the expansions, which one of these has more animals? Well, like I said, I wrote down some stuff, and we're going to compare the 7 different strategies and the species that are in those strategies. Not necessarily naming out all by name necessarily, but I will be mentioning the numbers. Okay, so let's start with insects. Okay, so For a Shuffle. Okay, this For a Shuffle has basically 10 species of insects. 5 are butterflies, so you got to know that. 5 are basically the same because they're all butterflies, but they have different names, so it counts. But yes, 10 insects in this one. And that would be, well, I guess we will name them out since we're here. That would be fireflies, the 5 butterflies, so 6 now, right? The wood ant, the stag beetle, the violet carpenter bee, and the gnat. Those are our insects in OG, original, okay? Now, what about the insects in Dartmoor? Well, there's 8. So that means a base game For a Shuffle, okay, it has more insects than this one. So for different species of insects, this one is the winner. Now, there is going to be a tiebreaker because remember, we have 7 strategies, and there might be a tiebreaker. So insects wins for this version, okay? But the insects that are going to be in Dartmoor, okay, are the 5 dragonflies, okay, the blue ground beetle, the lake fly, and the gnat. Okay, the gnat and the lake fly are different, and they have different mechanics, sort of. But they're basically going to be played together if you're going bat strategy. Okay, but you may not be playing them. You're not going to be playing them at all if you're not going bat strategy, and so then you're left with just 2 different types of insects if you're going insect route. So insect going in is definitely going to be a little weaker in that regards because of that. That said, if you're going the plant strategy, it works really well with the insect strategy because it strengthens the insect strategy. So the insect strategy is not necessarily weak. It just means that you should be working on 2 strategies. Okay, if you're going insects, you should be going plants. Okay, if you're going bats, then you might want to go some insects too, obviously. But yeah, that's kind of the idea. So then let's go to birds, okay? So birds for OG, For a Shuffle, there's 6 different species of birds. Okay, 6. That's not too bad. But what about Dartmoor? How many species of birds are in Dartmoor? 13 species of birds. That's a lot. That is a lot. Now, if you add the birds from the expansions in OG, then yes, there's more birds. But we're just comparing the base games of both of these, because this doesn't have expansions, so it's not fair to compare the expansions in this video, since this has no expansions. But yes, we have a winner. Birds. There's more birds in here than in here. So that's cool. So now we've got a tie. 2 strategies. So for birds that are in OG, okay, we have the chaffinch, the bullfinch, the great spotted woodpecker, goshawk, tawny owl, and the Eurasian jay, okay? So we have some birds, some cool ones. But then in Dartmoor, we have the barn owl, the meadow pipit, the buzzard, the cuckoo, the black-tailed godwit, the common moorhen, the gray heron, the curlew, the wheatear or wheatear or something. Some are hard to pronounce, obviously. The capercaillie, common pheasant, the nathach, and the tree creeper. Tree creeper. So lots of different species of birds in Dartmoor. So it's already got a lot of birds. Not a lot of insects, but a lot of birds. Okay, then what about bats? How many bats are in the original Forest Shuffle? We've got 4, okay? 4 species of bats. Those are the Bechsteins, the Barbastelle, the greater horseshoe bat, and the brown-eared bat, okay? 4 species of bats in OG Forest Shuffle. What about Forest Shuffle Dartmoor? Well, we have the common noctule, okay? We have the Debentons, the Brants, the Serotine, and the Alcatho. Probably pronouncing most of those wrong, but that's 5 different species of bats. There's more than 5. There's more than 4. That means there's more species of bats in this game. Awesome, right? Now, if you include the expansions, there is 6 species of bats. But still, once again, base game-wise, this is the winner for the bats. All right? Nice. Another winner for the bat strategy. 5 bats. Another really cool factor about this. So, while this one has 4 bats, and they all have different names, they're all the same. Okay? They all score the same. They're all the same. Now, these all score the same, but they have 5 different abilities. Okay? 5. So these are very different. So not only do they win by number, they win by awesomeness as well. So that's very awesome. So now let's talk about reptiles and amphibians. This one's a good one because I like reptiles. And Forest Shuffle only has 1 reptile. The others are amphibians, okay? So there's 4. 4 in total, okay? 3 are amphibians, 1 reptile. So the game says amphibian, right? And then there's 1 reptile. Well, the pond turtle is not an amphibian. It's a reptile. Once again, that's just weird, right? So, but yes, reptiles and amphibians, we'll just call that the same icon, right? So the pond turtle is one of them, okay? Fire salamander is the second one. Then we've got the tree frog, and then we've got the common toad, okay? There's our 4. So 4 in OG Forest Shuffle. Now, how many are in Dartmoor? There's 5. Well, that means Dartmoor wins. 5 species in this box. Another winner. Yay! So, what's in Dartmoor? Well, we have the warty newt, okay, which is basically like the tiger salamander, score-wise. We have the moor frog, okay, so those are our 2 amphibians. 2 amphibians. The other 3 are all reptiles. 2 snakes and a lizard. Yes! So we have the grass snake, okay? We have the adder, which is a venomous snake, okay? And then we have the common lizard. So that's amazing. So reptiles, amphibians wins for Dartmoor. Once again. So far we've had 3 wins for this one and 1 win for this one. That's impressive. But hey, we still have 3 more strategies. So let's look at the next ones. Okay. So let's do paws next. Okay? Paw animals. So Forest Shuffle. How many paw animals are in Forest Shuffle? There is, not including expansions, okay? there's 12. That's a lot. 12 species. What about Dartmoor? How many species of paw animals are in this one? 7. You know what that means? This is the winner of paw animals. There's more paw species, a lot more. Almost double the amount of paw animals in this game over this game. Okay? So what's in this game for paw? We have the European hare, the red fox. I wrote these down because I didn't want to forget one. I nearly forgot about the stag beetle because there's only 2 of those in the game anyway. So it was a good idea. I wrote them all down. So yeah, European hare, red fox, raccoon, wolf, mole, brown bear, hedgehog, European badger, lynx, European fat dormouse, that's an easy one to miss, the beech marten, and the red squirrel. That's a lot of mammals, okay? Now, what about Dartmoor? What species does it have? Well, we have the Dartmoor black rabbit, the Dartmoor badger, the otter, the beaver, the wood mouse, the field vole, and the shrew. Okay? So those are our paw animals. So now it's 2 and 3. 2 wins, 3 wins. Okay. Let's do hoof next, because that still counts. Now, deer is its own icon, yes, but it is still hoof, right? It's still hoof stock at the end of the day. So the hoof stock. How many species of hoof stock animals are in this one? There's 5. Okay, 5. Okay, cool. What about in Dartmoor? How many species of hoof stock are in here? 3. That means we've got another winner over here. You know what that means? It is now tied. 3 and 3. Okay, that's pretty close. Only one will be the deciding factor here. But let's see here. For hoof stock animals, we have the squeaker, the wild boar, and then we have the fallow deer, the roe deer, and the red deer. Okay, for this box, Dartmoor has, okay, the Dartmoor pony, the Dartmoor sheep, okay, and the roe deer. That's all it has. Okay, all right. So that leaves plants to decide who wins as far as species and all that. Okay, then I'll mention the totals as well. So for plants, for this one, base game plants has 4 plants. Okay. For Sharful, Dartmoor has 8 plants, double the amount of plants in here. So that means it wins, and that means Dartmoor wins this contest, at least. So, for plants, what do we have? We have wild strawberries, blackberries, moss, and tree ferns. Okay, in OG, original. And then Dartmoor has, okay, the greater butterfly orchid, the bog asphodel, water soldiers, meadowsweet, adder's ton, like that one, because it's named after a snake, royal fern, heather, and the blueberry. And yeah, that's all of them. So, cool. Lots of different plants. Now, out of just the base games, how many species are in this one, approximately? I didn't count in the different butterflies. I didn't count in the different dragonflies. Did I? I might have. Regardless of the case, they have the same number of dragonflies and butterflies. So if my numbers are a little off, they're evenly off, okay? So there's 45 in this one, 45 species. And there's 49 species in here. So which of these two has more species? It's this one. So it has seemed that this one has the least amount. But in reality, it's this one that has the most species. That is amazing. I actually thought the original has the most, but I was going off of the paw animals because I was missing the paw animals in this one. Because there was just not as many, you know. But there's way more birds and plants in this one, and that really changes the numbers for which one has the most. So which of the two is my favorite? Okay, we've talked about this one, you know, being a pain to play online, and this one can be played online. Okay, while this one definitely is a lot more fun to play online, that is for sure. And while I do miss a lot of the animal species in this one, especially the paw animals, right? And some of the insects like the wood ant and the stag beetle and stuff. I prefer this one. I think this one is the better game. I think obviously there's more species in this one. We've got actual reptiles in this one, not a pond turtle that no one plays because there's only 2 of them in the whole game. But we've actually got some really cool reptiles and amphibians in this one with some interesting abilities too. And yeah, and like I said, lots of birds, not as many paw animals, but still some fun ones to play. The plant strategy is probably super fun to play if you can get a certain more, okay? That makes the plant strategy so much funner. But yeah, I just prefer this one. This is my favorite. So for me, the versus competition, this one is the winner. This one beats the amount of different animals within the different strategies. This one wins over that. This one has more species. This one does not have an overpowered strategy that makes the other strategies completely pointless to play, okay? It just fixes a lot of the problems that this one had. That's why this one's the better one. And even though this one has 3 expansions that add a whole lot more species, which is what I'm missing. I'm missing all the expansions that this one has and this one does not have, right? That's the real reason why it was a hard decision to say which one was my favorite, because I just missed all of the expansion species as well that this one has. But in reality, if I'm comparing just the 2 base games, excluding the expansions, this one wins hands down. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys. I'll see you guys again next time. If you guys watch these videos and you're not subscribed, you know, you can subscribe. It helps me out. And you know, if you liked this video, don't forget to leave a like, and goodbye.